Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome to another episode of Say Hi to God today. Today I think we're just basically, checking in, gisting with you people, not anything serious. Just have fun today. I think I was thinking about how just a feed in from last week where I was talking about parents being intentional about raising their kids and how there's so much the agenda, the evil that is happening in the world right now, people that are resorting to all kinds of evil things just to make it in this life. You have to be watchful of what your kids are exposed to. You have to be more intentional about raising them. And I just wanted to share some of the things that I had been doing recently to be a bit more intentional with raising my own kids. Kid. So one of the things that I find is giving special time to my kid, right? It's like how you have your work time, you have your prayer time. You should also have your time for your children. Okay, you may have multiple children and maybe it becomes more difficult as time goes on, but the idea is to remove a time in your day that is specifically for bonding with your children. I thought this was impossible, to be honest. I used to think that it's just not impossible. I have a crazy day. I'm working an 8 to 5. I'm dealing with traffic. I'm dealing with all the other things that life is throwing at me. I'm dealing with my own personal life. I'm dealing with, there's so much to deal with. And sometimes I just feel like, oh my God, I'm always seeing my kid. I don't have to, we don't have to, we're seeing each other. We are okay. But it's not about seeing. Because I also realized something. So I realized something that a lot of times we're in the same space with our children, but we're not actually communicating with them. So occasionally here and there, but that's not really it. You don't get a lot. And I think it's more important that I'm even speaking about this now, because I have come to realize the importance of the things that I've learned over the period that I've been a bit more intentional with spending time with my son. So what I do, I don't know if I had mentioned this before, but what I do basically is when I come back from work, I don't enter the house. I just sit in the car with him. We do whatever we want to do in the car. We just gist, we just play, or maybe I just go up into my balcony, just me and him. We just stay, we just chill. It's like a space away from everything else that is going on, because guess what, once I get upstairs and I start, you start getting ready for the next day, you remember you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to you start making calls, you start doing this, start doing that. I'm like, you just have to take away the distractions. You start watching a movie, whatever it is. There's so many distractions that could just happen. You need to start cooking, you need to start doing something. I don't know what your schedule is like, but guys, this intentionality is so important. There are things that I've learned about my son over the past few weeks that I'm like, geez, I had no idea. I didn't know. I just didn't know. And you see that these kids are going through different phases in their lives, and it's so important that you are there with them. It's so important that you're able to identify when they enter a new phase of their life. It's so important that you're able to guide them through these different phases, because what is happening is that you're spending so much time outside and other people are busy helping you raise your child. And yes, you're doing the things that you can while you're at home and while you spend time with them, or while you're physically present, but is it enough? Are you imbibing enough? Do they respect you enough to actually open up to you? Do they? I don't like this idea of parenting where you cannot open up to your parents. Sometimes as parents, we need to understand that it's not about being judgmental. You need to guide these children. If you're being realistic, you have also gone through some of these phases that they're passing through in life, and don't even think it's exactly the same. In fact, I was having a conversation with Kaine yesterday, and Kaine said, so let me not embarrass Kaine. Kaine did something, and I said, you shouldn't do that. You should be able to control that. We're having a serious conversation. And I said, other people know when they want to, other people can control these things. You should be able to control these things. And Kaine looked at me. He said, Mommy, do you know that I'm not like everybody else? And there are things that I don't do like everybody else. I said, yes, that is true. You are correct. You are not like everybody else. So sometimes subconsciously You see, so it's a learning process. So subconsciously, I've projected that he should be able to do something that other people are able to do just because everybody else can do it, or because most people can do it. And he's trying to tell me, hey, it's not the same. You need to also identify that, you need to also recognize that your children are not like you, and they may not be you, and they may not want to be you. And that should be okay, right? That should be okay. I think coming to terms with that is where we as parents need to really, really, really work on. Because your children, we are projecting, okay, this is how I was raised, this is what I think is right, this is what I want my child to be like. How about what the child also wants? Because in trying to marry that, I feel like I always tell people something. You can communicate the same message, but the way you communicate it will determine whether somebody will receive that message or not receive that message. So now I want my child to behave a certain way, but the way I pass on the message or explain to the child why it is important for them to act a certain way also determines how they will receive it. Will they receive it as an instruction? Will they receive it as advice? Will they receive it as a mandate? Will they receive it as someone who loves them and wants to show them care? You know, so the way you have to also understand each child. And of course, each child is different. Every single child is different. Don't compare your children to each other and say, oh, this one is better at this one's better at that. And especially if you do it, don't do it in their presence. Don't do it in their presence, because that messes up with a child's mind. It absolutely, like, is one of those things that just cause children to either be rebellious, is one of those things that cause children to feel insecure, is one of those things that cause children to feel like they are not loved, you know, all of these things. So guys, it's so important that we actually try to be intentional. Now, so I was saying about how you know, spending time with these kids is just, if you want to be intentional about something, you have to actually invest in it. If you don't invest in it, then you're just going to be passive about it and let it be. Like, I'm not saying the small time that we spend with our children, maybe you say, oh, I'm spending 30 minutes, I'm spending 5 minutes, I'm spending 5 hours, I'm spending. So I did something and Kanye made me spend. He said his time, I'm going to spend 1 hour, 20 minutes, 60 seconds with him. As in, like, uninterrupted. Do you know that Kanye went and wrote an agenda of the things that we're going to do? He said we'll talk about stuff, general stuff, for 20 minutes, 15 minutes. We'll do gospel talk for 15 minutes. We'll do what's it called, for 18 minutes. He broke it down, did everything until it was 1 hour, 20 minutes, 60 seconds. And we'll sing and we'll play X and O, and he did all these things. And it was actually, I didn't think I was going to make it, to be honest. I thought we'll have a lot of interruptions, and you know, I was really tired by the time I got back. But I actually realized I had so much fun doing that, and we actually bonded even better. So you can find things, but you have to let your children also be a part of the process. You have to let your children decide what they also want to do. You can put ground rules, but generally you can just allow them to, you know, you guys should rub minds together. It's their time, so you should marry what you want and what they want. I always try to use that time also to remind Kanye about, you know, how to act, how to act as a Christian, tell him things about God, you know, gist him things about my life, allow him to gist me things about his life. You know, they will probably come and be telling you about Bob the Builder or one toy or something silly that happened in their class. Listen all the same. That's part of the process. If you can't give them enough time to listen to those, in quotes, silly things that are happening in their life, I mean, like, is happening in their life, then you will not be able to, they will not be able to relate with you when the more serious things also come up, right? You would think that your children are either too small or they're too old or they're too this, but give them that ear. Don't judge them when they tell you stuff. I know that there are a lot of parents that, oh, you tell them something today and in the next 10 months, 5 years, they'll use it against you. You know, they'll just remember, pull it up from somewhere in their memory. So don't do that to your kids, because once you start to do that, then they start to pull away from you. You need to leave an open mind. You need to understand that they too are passing through things, and as much as you're trying not to expose them to some of these things, when they leave your house, they go to school, they go to work, they go to wherever it is, they are automatically also exposed to these things that you're trying to protect them from. So guys, yeah, I think that was basically the gist. I wanted to just encourage somebody. This whole parenting thing is not easy, and it becomes even much more difficult with everything that is going on in the society. I would like to hammer on this again. It is important that you pray for your children. Be specific about praying for your children. Look for scriptures to speak over your children's lives. Lay your hands over your children as they're going out, when they come back. Whenever you remember, you just, speak good words over them. Don't go and be negative about your children. Yes, your child may not be where you want the child to be, but you also just keep praying for them. Keep trying to support them. Keep praying about it. And what happens is that when we pray about things, God edifies us, or he builds us up to know how to handle some of these things even better. Sometimes we think that, and I just learned this actually, sometimes we think that our prayers are for the situation at hand. Meanwhile, sometimes our prayers help us to grow and have better wisdom or understanding as to how to actually deal with the situation better. So it's important to note that prayer is never a waste. God moves things, like he moves. Prayer moves things like you don't even understand, guys. I've seen this one firsthand like this. You need to pray about stuff. There's no time for prayer. There's no time for the specific. Just pray. Keep praying. Yeah, you can have your normal time. If you say you pray in the morning, you pray in the night, you pray both times. It doesn't mean that during the day you can't pray. Just keep praying. Pray over your kids. If something comes to mind, pray about it immediately. Like, just stay in that place. It's even part of the conversations I was having with Kaine. Kaine was telling me how if my prayer life goes down, then I'll stray away from God, blah, 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 and all that. And I said to him, it's actually very interesting that you're saying this to me now, because I feel like, I've added a few things to my schedule, and it has reduced my prayer time. So I need to re-strategize and say, okay, you know what? I used to pray in the mornings, but mornings is no longer working out for me because there's so many things, and I'm always in a hurry when I'm leaving in the morning, so it doesn't allow me to actually just relax. So I'm like, okay, I'm switching back to my night prayers. So stuff like that. You have to move things around and see what works for you, but do not compromise on your prayer time. Do not. You will see it. You will start to see it immediately. You know that once you know that, oh, I've been doing this thing, I've been praying for 5 hours a day or whatever, and then you start doing 30 minutes, you start to feel it, that closeness. You're not in that place. And it's important that once you identify it, you retrace your steps immediately, because the more you leave it, the wider the gap becomes, and then the more you allow your mind to mix up with other things. Okay guys, so that's the message I had for you. Every time I say I will not do long conversation, I don't even understand. Why did I reach 30 minutes? What have we been talking about, Bikono? Okay guys, please like, comment, subscribe, send us DMs. Please follow us on Instagram and YouTube. It's at Say Hi to God Today. All of them are joined together. It's one word. Say Hi to God Today. Please join, share with your friends, share our videos, share with parents. And try to do something you haven't done with your kids in a while. Just explore something. It doesn't even have to be something expensive. Just explore something. All right, guys, have an amazing rest of the day. Bye-bye.